My name is Clara Winslow, and I'm 46. Competence doesn't glitter. It hums under everything. At 12:01 a.m., the dishwasher slips into off-peak, the way a ballerina hits a mark no one claps for. The lamps rise a breath before dusk. The budget app on my phone ticks a quiet green square into place. Last cell of the month. Paid, scheduled, handled. People mistake that hush for softness. Nets are quiet too, right up until someone falls. Nolan calls the net a buzzkill. The first time he said it, he was grinning, lifting a box into my foyer. My deed, my rules, my timers, he said, made the place feel like a very polite robot. He loved how reliable I was, right up until reliability meant I wouldn't co-sign his impulses. I came home early that Thursday with the kind of headache that makes daylight feel like an accusation. The bedroom door was mostly shut, the sliver of it open like a held breath. I was about to announce myself when I heard my name, shape-shifted by someone else's mouth. Clara? She's fine, Marla. Stable, comfortable. Nolan's voice, paced like a sales pitch. At 25, I had a different picture, I won't lie. But I'm 44. Options change. I chose practical. A small thing inside me paused mid-step. I shouldn't have listened. I did. Marla, his older sister, was on speaker. Does she know you feel that way? God, no. Nolan lowered his voice and then forgot to keep it low. She thinks she hit the jackpot. She appreciates order. She's grateful. Makes everything easier. She pays for most of it anyway. Cold, Marla said, not sounding surprised. It's realistic, he said. Clara's good enough. She'll keep my 40s comfortable. There are sentences that suture time into a before and an after. I stood in the dim hallway with my palms sweating and my face dry, and I stepped backward out of my own life. I sat in the car for an hour with the engine off and the city moving around me like weather. When I finally walked back in, Nolan called out, "See, you're home early." He leaned in the kitchen doorway like a headline that expected to be read. "Let's try that new French place tonight. My treat." His treat, the card I paid in full each month. I said, sure. At dinner, he ordered the oldest wine, like it owed him its year. He talked about redecorating the living room, my living room, and the way a leather sectional tells people we entertain as if furniture were a press release. The server set down a dessert we didn't need, and he said, too casually, "You know I could have married Vanessa." His ex-girlfriend's name exited his mouth like a test balloon. She wanted that faster timeline. You're more flexible. I smiled like a neutral country and paid the bill when his card mysteriously declined. Back home, he began his elaborate skincare routine, the subscription box he liked to tease me about while reminding me the packaging looked expensive on our sink. He watched himself in the mirror while talking to me. "Clara, you know I love you, right?" Good." He didn't wait for anything but the word. "Sometimes I worry you don't appreciate what you have. I mean..." He turned, a grin that didn't reach his eyes. "I settled for you because I was getting older. Don't forget that." There it was. The mask tugged all the way off, and somehow his face underneath looked cheaper. "I won't," I said. "Great. Oh, I booked that youth spa retreat next week. Full package." He flashed his phone like a badge. "It's only $3,000 for 5 days. You don't mind, right? Tuesday morning to Sunday. Detox, longevity, the works." "When do you leave?" I asked, and a very quiet machine inside me began to warm. "Tuesday, back Sunday. You'll be fine without me." He kissed my temple like a benediction he hadn't earned. "Try not to mess up the house while I'm gone. The cleaning service comes Thursday. And maybe hit the gym? I got you that membership in..." "With my card," I said, so soft it didn't even count as a correction. He smiled into the mirror. Semantics. He slept hard that night. I didn't. I watched the ceiling in the dark until the corners learned my name. I counted assets because counting is how I pray. House, mine, bought long before Nolan moved in, deed recorded and unambiguous. Car he drove, mine, purchased last year for insurance purposes and never transferred. Utilities, my accounts. Subscriptions, my logins. Every auto pay ticking along like a city grid I designed. He called what I built a net. He wasn't wrong. Friday, I packed a small bag for myself, a habit my mother taught me. You always keep a bag that can hold your life for 3 days. In it, a folder. Titles, copies of keys, a list that looked like choreography. I wasn't sure yet what dance it would become, only that I knew each step by heart. Saturday, He took me to brunch and posted a story captioned, "Blessed to be loved by a woman who understands luxury." The comments filled with small hearts and one flame, a woman whose attention he never discouraged. He angled the camera to catch his watch and my ring. I don't wear diamonds because I don't like them, but men in Nolan's circle measure devotion by reflectivity. Sunday, he compared retreat schedules with a friend who texted him a link to cryotherapy testimonials. "Longevity starts with decisions," Nolan said, tapping his temple, as if he'd invented the idea of tomorrow. Monday, he asked me if I could move the car payment to earlier in the month, so it doesn't hit when I'm on the cleanse, he said, and laughed at his own sentence before it was finished. I nodded and scheduled it, and in the confirmation screen, I watched the number of days between his comfort and my decision narrow into a doorway. Tuesday morning arrived like an apology. He kissed me at the curb, waved to his ride, and said, "Don't wait up for me Sunday. I'll be glowing." "I'm sure you will," I said. I stood in the doorway until the car turned the corner and the last of him slipped out of view. The house kept its counsel. Somewhere a thermostat breathed. The dishwasher blinked its vow to behave at 12:01. I looked at the clock. 7:13 a.m. I took a breath and picked up my phone. "First call, the moving company. Emergency move, same day," I said. "Yes, I understand the cost." Second call, Jonah, my lawyer friend. He listened without interrupting, the way good lawyers and good friends do. "Clara," he said finally, "you're clear. He's not on the deed. There's no lease. He's an invited guest with a key. You can revoke the invitation." "I'm not changing the locks," I said. "I'm selling the door." "Even cleaner," he said, and I could hear him smile. "You planned this?" I watched him tell the truth, I said, and then I remembered mine. By 9, I had boxes. By 10, I had muscle. By noon, the life I built was in motion, and the life he performed was reduced to labeled cardboard. Shoes, jackets, tech, bath, MySCA. I wrapped his breakables. Compassion isn't incompatible with boundaries. In fact, it requires them. By 2, I had a storage unit. First month paid through the 15th. Key on a bright tag, taped to a printed sheet with the address and locker number. I set the bundle in the center of the kitchen counter like a thesis. By 3, my things were already in a new apartment across town, a place with a view of the river and a kind of light that makes even closed windows feel like promise. A place where the lamps would still rise before dusk, as if they remembered me. By 4, I had revoked his authorized user status and changed the Netflix password. Petty? Yes. Satisfying? Even more so. I moved the utilities to the new owners beginning Monday. They were signing Friday. I was early to everything. It's how I breathe. At 5, the house was strangely beautiful. Echoing, clean, unlived. I stood in the doorway one last time. You don't realize how heavy a low-grade insult is until you set it down. I turned out the lights and left the key for him, the one that wouldn't fit anything by Sunday night. On the counter, beside the storage packet, I wrote 2 words on a square of paper and placed it like a period. Your things. The morning after he left, the house felt like a lung that had finally exhaled. No music, no commentary about energy flow, no shoes in the hallway like punctuation marks. Just quiet, pure, unjudged space. I made coffee and didn't have to defend how I take it. That silence wasn't loneliness. It was calibration. By 9 a.m., the movers were at the door. 3 men, polite, efficient, curious, but too professional to ask questions. Everything labeled mine goes, I said. Everything else, pack gently. One of them glanced at the closet full of designer suits. X? Something like that. While they worked, I sat at the kitchen island and made calls. My voice had a steadiness I hadn't heard in years. Credit cards first. Hi, I need to remove an authorized user. Click. Confirmed. Then, car insurance. Policyholder, Clara Winslow. Remove secondary driver, Nolan Beck. Done. Utilities next. Gas, electric, internet. All transitioned to the closing date. Each confirmation email felt like a small liberation notice. The house had been on the market quietly for 2 months. A cash buyer came through last week. A couple moving from Seattle who loved the windows I'd restored myself. The closing was set for Friday. The timing wasn't divine, but it was precise. By noon, every trace of Nolan's presence existed only as inventory. 23 boxes stacked like patience itself. His tailored coats and garment bags, his gadgets labeled by charger type, his endless grooming products bubble-wrapped and sealed. No malice, just finality. I left his cologne on the bathroom counter. I wanted the smell of him to have somewhere to go. At 2, I drove to the storage facility, a temperature-controlled unit downtown with better lighting than our kitchen. Signed the papers, slid the key onto a bright red tag, and tucked it into the packet for him. Paid through the 15th. After that, it would be his problem, or his lesson. Jonah texted, "You sure you're okay? This is a hell of a move." I replied, "I'm not moving out. I'm moving on." That night, I ordered takeout for 1 and ate it at my new apartment by the river. The building smelled faintly of cedar and fresh paint. Boxes still everywhere, but the air, light. I watched boats slide by, tiny flashes of gold on the water, and thought about all the little things I'd paid for that he'd called ours. The memberships, the subscriptions, the dinners. All temporary leases disguised as gratitude. My phone buzzed. Nolan. Spa is amazing. The women here are desperate to look 25 again. Sad, really. I just look 35 naturally. Me. Enjoy. That was Friday. Saturday, another text. Nolan. The hotel bar is dangerous. Don't wait up for me. I didn't reply. By Sunday afternoon, I'd finished unpacking at the new place. My old house was empty, echoing, ready for its next story. On the counter, his envelope, the storage key, and a clean kitchen. I left the thermostat at 72, polite to the end. Tuesday morning, the cleaners came as scheduled. They called to confirm the place looked move-in ready. Perfect, I said. Lock the door when you leave. Wednesday, the escrow officer confirmed, closing on schedule, funds to your account by Friday. A deposit notification blinked later that day. The last thread cut. Friday morning, I signed the papers. The house, mine since before Nolan, before compromise, now belonged to strangers who would fill it with their own noise. Congratulations, the agent said. Thank you, I said. I think I just sold my silence and bought my peace. That night, I opened a bottle of wine. The city hummed below. A new chapter didn't start with fireworks. It began with stillness. Saturday, my phone lit up again. Nolan. Hey, something's wrong with my card at the spa. Can you check? Me. Might be the system. Try your debit. Nolan. This is embarrassing. Me. You'll manage. He didn't reply after that. By Sunday morning, the closing funds cleared. Jonah called. Officially done, he said. Feels surreal, I admitted. Freedom usually does, until you realize how heavy the chains were. I laughed, really laughed, for the first time in months. Not the kind of laugh meant to keep the peace, the kind that rearranges air. At 6 p.m., the last notification from the movers arrived. Delivery completed to storage unit. Perfect timing. Nolan would return in 14 hours. I imagined him stepping out of the Uber, bronzed from facials and smug from detox. Imagined his key sliding into a lock that no longer turned. Imagined the echo when he stepped inside and found the house hollow as truth. No vengeance, just symmetry. By midnight, I turned off my phone, placed it face down on the counter, and whispered to the quiet room, "Let the reckoning begin." Sunday evening, my phone buzzed so violently, it nearly slid off the counter. I flipped it over. 67 texts, 43 missed calls. I scrolled one by one. Clara, where are you? Why is there a key and an address on the counter? Where is everything? This isn't funny. The house is empty. Each message came shorter, sharper, punctuation losing patience. Then came the voicemails. Confusion curdled into anger. Anger melted into panic. His voice trembled by the end, that performative confidence cracking like old paint. I let it all play through once. Then I took a sip of wine and answered the phone when it rang again. Clara, what did you do? I moved, I said. You moved? His disbelief was almost admiration. You moved without telling me? Where are my things? In storage, the keys on the counter. Wait, the locks. Changed, I said. The new owners are moving in tomorrow. He made a sound that was half laugh, half gasp. You sold our house? My house, I corrected softly. And yes, I did. You can't just, Clara, where am I supposed to live? That's not my problem, Nolan. You're a resourceful man. You told your sister you were practical. You heard that. His voice shrank. Every word, I said, including the part about me being grateful and easy to manage. I didn't mean... You meant it enough to repeat it twice, I said. That's commitment. The silence that followed was almost compassionate. I could hear him breathing, trying to recalculate what version of himself might survive this. Finally, he said, "You blindsided me." "You had 5 days' notice," I replied. "I just didn't tell you what it was for." He exhaled through his teeth. "You'll regret this. You can't just erase people." "I didn't erase you," I said. "You wrote yourself out." He hung up. The next morning, his sister Marla called. "Clara, what the hell happened? Nolan's freaking out. He says you took everything." I boxed it carefully, I said. "Nothing broken. First month of storage paid." "Are you kidding me? He's devastated." "I'm sure he is. Consequences often masquerade as heartbreak." "Clara," her tone softened. "He said you're being cruel." "No," I said. "I'm being clear." After we hung up, I looked around my apartment, the soft morning light hitting the river, the way reflections trembled against the wall. The quiet didn't accuse me. It congratulated me. That afternoon, a voicemail arrived from Nolan's mother, Lorraine. Her voice was kind, hesitant. "Clara, dear, I just wanted to understand what's going on. Nolan said you left him homeless? Surely that's not true." I called her back. "Lorraine, I made sure he has everything he brought into the relationship and everything he earned." "Oh," she said. "So, not much then." I didn't laugh. I didn't need to. Tuesday morning, he texted again. "The bank says my cards were closed. Did you do that?" "You were an authorized user. I removed authorization." "That's theft. That's housekeeping." "You're unbelievable, Clara." "That's new. You used to call me predictable." By Wednesday, the desperation turned performative. Instagram stories appeared. Sometimes people show their true colors after you give them everything. The everything he meant, of course, was access. His comment section flooded with sympathy, people who didn't know the details but loved a tragedy that fit into captions. I watched, detached, until one of his old posts resurfaced. A follower, maybe a mutual from years ago, commented, "Didn't you say last month that smart men choose providers, not dreamers?" Another added screenshots of his past tweets about dating women who know how to invest in your potential. The digital floor started to tilt beneath him. By Thursday morning, he'd deleted the posts. That afternoon, Marla texted again. "He's humiliated. The spa staff said his card declined. He had to ask them to comp his treatments. He's furious." "He can use his debit card," I replied. "You're being heartless." "No," I wrote. "I'm being fair." Friday, I got a call from Jonah. "House closed. Funds cleared. You're officially done." He paused, then added, "By the way, Nolan called my office, wanted to know if there was any legal way to undo the sale." "What did you tell him?" "I told him to start a GoFundMe." I laughed so hard I had to sit down. That night, I ordered dinner with my own card, just mine, and ate on the balcony while the city exhaled below. I didn't toast to revenge. I toasted to gravity and how it always works, even when people pretend it doesn't. Saturday, another text came in. "You win, okay? I get it. Can we just talk?" "About what?" "About us." "There is no us, Nolan. Just you, the storage unit, and the mirror." He didn't reply for a long time. Then one more message. "You're cold, Clara. You'll die alone." "Maybe," I typed, "but my thermostat's paid for." By Sunday, Nolan's silence had morphed into something louder. Performance. He resurfaced online first. A carefully lit selfie, eyes red, captioned, "Some people don't believe in loyalty anymore. You can give your best years and still get discarded like trash." The comments poured in like confetti. "You deserve better, King. Stay strong, bro. She'll regret it." He always did love a stage. I didn't respond. I didn't even scroll. But the internet has a funny way of policing narratives. Within a day, someone unearthed his old posts, the ones where he called me a walking pension plan to his friends, and joked that dating older women is a strategic investment. Screenshots began circulating. The hashtags turned from sympathy to schadenfreude. Guess the investment defaulted. ROI, 0. By Tuesday, his apology posts were already contradicting each other. One minute, he was a man wronged. The next, a misunderstood dreamer. Lorraine called again, sounding tired this time. "Clara, I don't know what to say. He's unraveling." "He's performing," I said gently. "He's always been dramatic, but he swears you ruined him." "I didn't ruin him, Lorraine. I just stopped financing his delusion." She exhaled slowly. "I suppose every generation has to learn the value of consequences." "Some just need a longer invoice," I said. Wednesday morning, the door buzzer rang. The doorman's voice crackled through the intercom. "Ms. Winslow, a gentleman here says he's your partner. Should I send him up?" I felt my pulse still. Describe him. Tall, mid-40s, nice suit, carrying flowers. Says his name is Nolan Beck. Tell him to wait. I took my time walking downstairs. He was there. Pressed shirt, hollow eyes, the bouquet trembling slightly in his grip. He looked like someone who'd rehearsed a speech but forgotten the lines halfway through. Clara. His smile strained. Can we talk? I looked at the flowers. Roses. Predictable. He flinched. I wanted to apologize. Things got out of hand. Which things? The part where you told your sister I was an easy mark? Or the part where you told the internet you were a victim? He hesitated. I was angry. No, I said. You were exposed. His jaw tightened. You don't have to be cruel. I'm not, I said. I'm accurate. He took a shaky breath. I'm 44, Clara. You know what it's like out there? Dating, starting over, it's brutal. I tilted my head. You were out there, Nolan. Emotionally, you never left. He set the bouquet down on the marble floor, hands trembling. Please, just let me stay for a night. I have nowhere else to go. You have a sister, I said. She kicked me out. I raised an eyebrow. Even Marla's boundaries have boundaries. He stepped closer, desperation leaking through the cologne. I made a mistake, okay? I shouldn't have said what I said. I was scared. Of what? Of being ordinary, he said, voice cracking. Of fading out. The honesty almost reached me. Almost. Nolan, I said softly, you could have been extraordinary in kindness, in partnership, in gratitude. Instead, you chased glamour and called it growth. He looked at me like I'd just translated a language he'd never learned. I loved you, he whispered. You loved my stability, I corrected. You mistook it for safety. You mistook me for furniture. He laughed bitterly. You always have to win, don't you? No, I said. I just refuse to lose myself. Security stepped closer, reading the room. I nodded toward the elevator. You need to go. He lifted the flowers again, almost pleading. Please. I shook my head. Give them to someone who still believes in your version of sincerity. As the elevator doors closed on him, his voice cracked through the gap. You'll regret this, Clara. You're not much to look at, you know that? I smiled faintly. Then it's a good thing I like peace more than mirrors. The doors sealed with a soft sigh. That night, the building's front desk called to confirm he'd left quietly. I thanked them and turned off my phone. For the first time in years, I slept without dreaming of rescue. Thursday morning, Jonah called laughing. Guess who tried to claim common law marriage? I nearly choked on my coffee. You're kidding. He got some bargain bin lawyer, Marla's boyfriend's cousin apparently, to demand half of everything. They cited 4 years of cohabitation and mutual support. Mutual support, I said. He contributed $300 a month for groceries and moral sabotage. Exactly, Jonah said. I called the lawyer and told him our state hasn't recognized common law marriage since 1996. Added that your ex-client would be on the hook for legal fees if he filed anything. He dropped the case in 10 minutes. I smiled. That's faster than the movers. Friday evening, a neighbor sent me a screenshot of Nolan's latest post, a long caption about rising from ashes over a photo of him at a bar. Someone had commented, Bro, the ashes are just unpaid bills. By Saturday, he deleted his accounts. The quiet after his noise was intoxicating. I sat on my balcony with a cup of tea and realized something simple and terrifying. Peace can be addictive once you taste it. I watched the river glitter under the streetlights and whispered to the night, I'm finally alone, and it feels like symmetry. It had been 2 full weeks since Nolan's retreat turned into his reckoning. 2 weeks since the house I once called home became someone else's address. 2 weeks of clean air and unreturned calls. Then, one gray afternoon, Jonah texted, He's trying something new. Brace yourself. A few minutes later, an email arrived from a paralegal I didn't know. Subject line, Notice of intent to claim property rights. I didn't even open it before calling Jonah. He answered on the first ring, laughing. It's as ridiculous as it sounds. Let me guess. Common law marriage, round 2? Exactly. Same cousin lawyer. They're citing shared domestic life and emotional contributions. Apparently, your consistency was a marital service. I snorted. So stability is now spousal labor? Apparently. Jonah was still chuckling. I called him, told him the statute changed 29 years ago, asked if his client had 20 grand for fees when he loses. Silence. Case withdrawn within the hour. That's merciful, I said. I'm merciful. You, on the other hand, are mythological. That night, I turned off notifications. I didn't need to watch the final tremors of a collapse. But collapse has a way of finding its audience. Saturday night, the doorman called again. His voice was apologetic, cautious. Ms. Winslow, I'm sorry, but there's a man downstairs saying he's your husband. Should we call the police? I felt the quiet inside me pulse once, like a muscle testing its strength. Not yet, I said. I'll come down. Nolan stood by the lobby's glass wall, rain soaking the shoulders of his blazer. He wasn't wearing the armor of cologne anymore. His eyes were raw, unfocused. Clara, he said when he saw me, voice fraying, don't call security, please. Then don't lie, I said. You told them you're my husband. He rubbed his face. I didn't know what else to say. They wouldn't let me up. Because you don't live here. I don't live anywhere, he whispered. Marla kicked me out. My mom said I need to figure things out. I'm 44 years old and sleeping in my car. The car in your name? I asked. His mouth tightened. The car you stole. I almost laughed. The car I bought, insured, and titled under my name? That car? God, you sound like a judge. Just a woman who learned her paperwork, I said. He stepped forward, drenched, trembling. Please, Clara, just one night. I'll sleep on the couch. I looked at him, the man who once called my caution a buzzkill, who measured worth in what I could pay for, who had said, I settled for you with the ease of a weather report. And for one small second, I felt sorry for him. Not for his loss, but for his blindness. Nolan, I said softly, you had a home. You didn't live in it. You had love, but you confused it with convenience. You had time, but you spent it on vanity. He shook his head. I was scared, he said. I didn't know how to be good at this. Then learn, I said, but not here. He reached for my arm. You can't do this. You can't just walk away after 4 years. I didn't walk away, I said. I reclaimed the distance you took. You'll die alone, he spat, voice raw again. You think this makes you strong, but it makes you empty. I met his eyes. Empty things don't break when dropped. The doorman stepped forward gently. Sir, we'll need to escort you out. Nolan's voice dropped to a plea. Clara, I'm 44 and invisible. Do you know what that feels like? Yes, I said. You taught me. He flinched like I'd hit him, then nodded, slow and hollow. You're colder than I thought. I'm clearer than you'll ever be, I said. He turned toward the door, shoulders shaking, muttering something I couldn't catch. When the glass door sealed behind him, the air in the lobby changed, lighter, like pressure equalizing. The doorman looked at me. You okay, Ms. Winslow? Better than okay, I said. That was closure wearing a wetsuit. Upstairs, I brewed tea, then sat by the window and watched the rain turn the city into mirrors. Jonah called 10 minutes later. I just got a report he showed up at your place. Everything all right? It's over, I said. He left. You sound calm. I am. He can't touch what he never understood. He exhaled audibly. I'll drink to that. Sunday morning came soft, washed clean. No messages, no noise. The silence wasn't absence anymore. It was space. I opened my laptop and looked at the spreadsheet that had anchored my life for years. Expenses, savings, goals. Every cell was green. For once, the numbers didn't represent survival. They represented freedom. 3 weeks later, the world had resumed its rhythm, without him in it. The first week, Nolan's name floated through social media like a ghost that didn't know it was dead. Posts about growth, healing, fake people. Each caption sounded like it was written to convince himself. The second week, Marla called, not to defend him, but to debrief. He's staying with Mom now, lost his job at the boutique, showed up drunk a few nights ago. Still allergic to accountability? I asked. She sighed. He keeps saying he deserves better. I told him he had better. He just mistook it for boring. I smiled. That's his favorite confusion. By the third week, the noise stopped. His pages went private. His friends disappeared into indifference. Silence finally found him. And me? I'd begun to live like a person who trusted her own company. I joined a ceramics class, learned how to center clay on a wheel, that strange spinning metaphor about balance and pressure, met people who spoke in curiosity instead of criticism. On Thursdays, Jonah and his wife hosted poker night. I lost every week, but losing felt harmless. Nobody kept score outside the table. Saturday mornings, I walked by the river with a thermos of coffee. Sometimes I thought of the house, not with nostalgia, but with clarity. It had been a stage set, perfectly lit, quietly suffocating. The real home was this, the steady sound of water and the absence of apology. A month passed before I saw Lorraine again. She was in the grocery store aisle, staring at a shelf of cereal like it held answers. Clara, she said softly, eyes kind but tired. You look well. I am, I said. How's Nolan? She pressed her lips together. Back at home, temporarily. Says the job market's unfair. Translation, I said gently. The world stopped subsidizing him. Her laugh was small but real. His father and I are making him pay rent. We told him it's time to grow up. That's parenting, I said. She nodded, then hesitated. He told me you were cruel. I was clear, I corrected. She studied me for a moment, then smiled. Good. He needed someone who wouldn't bend. As I walked away, I realized something I hadn't dared name before. I didn't hate him. I didn't even wish him harm. I wished him understanding, though I doubted he'd seek it. 2 months after I'd left the key on the counter, a new message appeared on my phone. Unknown number. This is Nolan using Mom's phone. I wanted you to know I started therapy, not to win you back, to figure out how I became this person. I'm sorry. You deserve better. I read it twice, then once more, to be sure I felt nothing resembling hope. I didn't reply. Silence, I'd learned, is sometimes the kindest closure. That night, I cooked dinner for myself. Salmon, asparagus, lemon zest, and ate with the lights dimmed to a warm gold. Outside, the river caught the glow of the city, scattered it like quiet applause. I opened my journal, the one I'd ignored for years because it never fit into Nolan's version of efficiency, and wrote, "Freedom is not revenge, it's the absence of needing one." I thought of that spa invoice, the $3,000 that had seemed like indulgence. It turned out to be tuition. 5 days of his absence had bought me the clearest education of my life. I stood by the window, the air cool against my skin, and whispered to the reflection I finally recognized. He called it settling. I call it waking up. The green cell on my budget app blinked softly, right on schedule. The dishwasher clicked into off-peak at 12:01, a familiar rhythm that no longer needed approval. Peace, I realized, doesn't announce itself. It hums, steady, patient, earned.